Hey, this is B from Kong's Rust, and today we're going to do an in-depth review of my Arcade1Up Dragon Lair cabinet that just came out. Is this worth an upgrade from your iiRcade version of Dragon Lair? If you have one, you can play these games in probably a lot of different ways, but is it worth spending over $600 for this cabinet? The artwork, the design, the ROMs, and is it missing a few features? Who knows? But let's go ahead and do an in-depth review right after this. Let's start by taking a look at the cabinet design and artwork. So here we have a beautifully shaped, custom arcade-shaped cabinet for the Dragon Lair cabinets. You'll not see this in any other games, except maybe if Space Ace, if people want to make a custom. But you see here the gorgeous side panel here with the Dragon Lair artwork, the very original artwork here with a clean black riser on the bottom, so it just blends all together. You do have some custom artwork on the bottom here with Dirk Daring, so for some folks might like this. Some people might like it plain black, so that's up to you if you want to change this out. You have the beautiful coin doors that Arcade1Up has been putting in their machines lately. I absolutely adore these coin doors. They look gorgeous here, really adds to the aesthetic of the arcade itself. Now going to the control panel. So you have the control panel, which is a little bit of a shorter control panel that blends into this bottom kind of not J panel. This doesn't light up at all. I don't like actually that this is a black kind of molding here. I would have liked this to maybe see this blue or something to see how they could have blended this into the panel a little bit more like they do on the original arcade, as well as I know we're missing some of that bezel art that blends into this. I really like the original design, but you know, for what they did with the monitor in here and this beautiful alphanumeric screen is one of the highlights in this game, to be able to look at this, see it all together. And let's check out the beautiful custom marquee. So this was one solid piece of a marquee that came together. The box, you know, I was surprised when I saw it all together, and this is a brand new marquee design. It's very well good quality. You can see here that it lights up really beautifully. There is that grittiness to the artwork, so I think it's meant to replicate how the original artwork was. I'm not sure if that's not high quality or not, but otherwise it looks really clean and gorgeous. Again, one of the most gorgeous cabs put into the collection so far. Here's a look at the top of the cab here. You can see the top going down to the bottom. They have the labels on the back, not on the top part of it. Other than that, it's a very simple back. Nothing new here, but this is interesting that they put the label here instead of up top back here. Now aesthetically, I'd only make a handful of upgrades. One is I would get cover holes for these screw hole covers here. It just looks like there's a ton of holes all over the cabinet. I actually got screw hole covers in my Tron. They made a big difference from the aesthetic standpoint. The next thing I would do is change out the, not the coin door, but actually light these up. So maybe I'll get some LED kits from Retro 530. And the last thing I might do is if you look at the whole cabinet itself, it feels a hair too short. I mean, if you look at it next to Tron is just massive when it came out. It was really gorgeous, really kind of a crowd pleaser. Dragon's Lair, while it's the same height as the MK30th, I just feel like this cabinet could have been a couple inches taller. If they would have made the riser taller, just like the Tron, it would have been perfect. So I might look to get a riser extension, the riser for the riser, just to lift it up a little bit. Look how low this control panel is next to the Tron, next to the MK30th, next to the iiRcade. It just feels a little bit too low. It's probably my only complaint that I have about the height of the cabinet, but we can get a riser extender to do that. But besides that, everything else is gorgeous. So let's talk about the components of the cabinet. The 17-inch BOE monitor here we've seen in Gen 3s and above. This is the IPS monitor that doesn't wash out from any angle here. Beautiful monitor quality here, as well as a brand new 6-inch alphanumeric screen. Now this was the screen that caused the 2-year delay when originally Arcade1Up was saying they might use something like a cell phone. The time it took to add in this 6-inch alphanumeric display I think was absolutely worth the redesign and change. It really adds to the aesthetic of the cabinet. It makes it look super authentic to have the scores here with the 3-inch speakers on the sides. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So let's take a look in the back on the model numbers. Last little bit note about the monitor. I love how far recessed this is back, but it's interesting that there's actually a little gap between this panel and this. It doesn't sit flush. There's no reason that it should make a difference at all. There's no light bleed or anything from here, but I thought it was interesting that there's just a little bit of gap here between the monitor and the speaker, but you can't even notice it from the front. It actually looks pretty decent there. No issues with that bleeding into the top part. So I was really curious about the alphanumeric screen, and I had to dismantle part of my cabinet. I don't recommend doing this for anybody, but I just wanted to double check and see what was the guts behind that alphanumeric screen. So you see here, this is the controller board for it. This is the plug that plugs into your PCB to control it. And this is just it, a very simple alphanumeric screen controlled by this mini encoder board here. And that's it. You can see the model number there of what's going on. This is new technology we've not seen in Arcade1Up. I'm so happy they went this route instead of a cell phone route. Here you see the back back of the 3-inch speakers here. You do have to remove a lot to do this, so I don't recommend doing this at all. But here you go, what's happening behind the alphanumeric screen. So while the monitor is confirmed to be that 17-inch BOE there, I did go ahead and unscrew the PCB, and check this out. This is a brand new type of PCB that we've seen. It does have that extra controller port for the alphanumeric display, but it has a heatsink attached to this giant piece in the middle here. So this is a little bit new. I talked to Team Encoder folks and they said it might be a rock chip based off of the color of the board. I'm not sure. They might be getting it soon so they can do some testing on their own. But other than that, this is your standard PCB here. Has a micro SD slot there, or actually a USB, micro USB. There's the SD slot right there. And then a USB slot on the top side, and then your power port. So that's pretty much it for the PCB side of things. So another new component to this cab is the actual marquee itself, which came fully assembled here. I went ahead and unscrewed the top part so we can see the guts of it, everything inside. So you can see that there's an LED strip on the inside there and a single piece of acrylic that has the actual artwork printed on it. Looking very clean. It does look like if you wanted to replace this and maybe do a Space Ace cab. I did see some pictures of somebody doing a full-on Space Ace version of the cabinet, so it looks like you can replace this really nice bent acrylic here. It's super gorgeous, so I'm really glad that this came fully assembled. You didn't have to put it together yourself. Really looking clean here. I like the design of this. So here's a close-up look at the control panel itself. So it sits into this little pocket area without a J panel here. It just hits flat, and it uses these J blocks here, these J pieces that sit on there, kind of like Star Wars. When it sits in, it goes flush against the monitor itself. So it does create this little pocket that you could, you know, put something there. But yeah, there's a little bit of a gap between this. It's not flush with the plexiglass. And the weird thing about mine is that the edge pieces of this is actually pretty sharp. I'm not sure why, but it's really rough, and I have my hands here. It doesn't feel that comfortable. I might try sanding down this edge part of it, so I'm not sure why it's so sharp there. I would have really liked to have seen this little you know, T-molding piece blend into the artwork somehow so that it looks like one continuous piece, but that's only just a little bit of a preference there. But otherwise, let's take a look on the inside. So after removing the cover, you can see that the control panel uses the same typical joysticks and buttons you've seen. The buttons are still the same mushy but Arcade1Up buttons you've seen. This is a Sandwall clone, which is a pretty decent clone. The micro switches themselves are a little bit heavy on the touch. It uses an 8-way square gates restrictor there. If you wanted to do an upgrade, you could upgrade it to a genuine Sandwall. This is a Sandwall JLF. The micro switches are a little bit lighter, which means they're slightly more responsive. So I'm not sure if that's going to improve any of your gameplay, but listen to the Sandwall clicky controls, which are definitely a little bit lighter with the spring, and these are a little bit heavier of the micro switches. So it all comes down to preference. I don't know if there's going to be any gameplay performance because this is just moving the button, but you have options if you wanted to upgrade. So let's take a look at the user interface and menu. It's very simple. There's no Wi-Fi enabled options here, so once it turns on, you just get Dragon's Lair. The options go to Dragon's Lair 2 or Space Ace. Each game also has a limited options menu. In the Dragon's Lair game, you have the option to do jerks per credit to 3, 5, or unlimited. Difficulty is easy or hard, and demo on or off. Let's go ahead and check out the options for Dragon's Lair 2. Those options are just one, the dirks per credit, where you can go 3, 5, or unlimited. It also has the ability to reset high scores, which is the only game that I've seen that keeps track of high scores. We're going to get to that a little bit later on. And then the Space Ace options there, you have lives per credit as 3, 5, and unlimited. The skill level as Cadet, Captain, or Space Ace. And difficulty 4 modes, 3 episodes with fast increase and slow increase. 5 episodes with fast increase or slow increase as well, and demo sounds. So those are your options for the UI. Let's jump into some demo gameplay of Dragon's Lair. So a simple control layout with the buttons and for the sword, and that's pretty much it when you get into the game, and no other options that you have. The scoreboard starts at 0 for everything, and it tracks your score up top. Let's turn it down just a little bit. Drop in our coin. I really like having the option to play with unlimited lives while you're learning the game, and if you get good, then you can drop down to 3 and 5 lives. It's keeping track of your score here. What I didn't like was seeing anywhere that kept track of high scores. That's actually one of the biggest detriments that I've seen. Even though this looks gorgeous, the fact that it's not tracking my high scores in the game on Wi-Fi or even just in the game itself is actually a little bit disappointing. So, but learning the game is really fun. So again, this game just requires you to look at the screen and based on the actions on the screen, try to move your joystick left or right. And hit the sword button appropriately. There's a lot of memorization for the game if you can. It takes some quick reflexes. I'm pretty decent at it. I'm not the best from memorizing everything. And I'm playing on easy mode, so I don't know if that actually helps with anything too, but I'm getting through pretty quickly, and each time that I get a correct press, my score is going up, getting to the next level. And right now I have unlimited lives on. I recommend playing with unlimited lives to learn the game. If you're a true hardcore person, I'm sure you can get it good. But if you're playing the game for the first time or the first couple times in a long time, do yourself a favor and just do unlimited lives just to make sure that you can have some fun. Play the game, try to remember where you're at and not get super frustrated. I was able to beat the game the other night just to keep going and repeating several stages and areas. But it's fun, and this is just a good way to remember playing. I was supposed to go up. No. I'm playing enough. It's just about memorizing the patterns for these games. These games were always fun in the arcade. Well, actually I lied. This was not fun for me in the arcade because I didn't know the game and I didn't have enough money to remember and learn how to play. So it's actually good and challenging for me playing it without arrows and learning it each time. Let's see how far we can get. Alright, we made it to the dragon stage. Finally, we're on the last boss. Oh, I'm talking too much. Alright, let's concentrate. See if we can do this.
So here's the final stage with the dragon, and one of the early things that some folks had mentioned is that there's an audio sync issue when Daphne speaks. And I played this game a couple of different times on both the iiRcade and the Arcade1Up, and I think the audio sync issues are actually non-existent. I think even though the mouths are off, that's probably how the game ROM actually works. Let's listen to Daphne closely on the Arcade1Up version, and then I'll switch to the iiRcade.
Please save me! The cage is locked with a key. The dragon keeps it around his neck. To slay the dragon, use the magic sword.
So here's the iiRcade version of Dragon Lair that I recorded straight from an HDMI capture card to check out this exact same scene, so let's listen to it.
Please save me! The cage is locked with a key. The dragon keeps it around his neck. To slay the dragon, use the magic sword.
So even watching the iiRcade version, you can tell that Daphne's voice was not in sync with her mouth on that version either. So this leads me to believe that the original ROMs probably weren't in sync to begin with. I never got that far in the original arcade game to compare it, but based on the iiRcade gameplay, based on what I've watched online of Daphne's voice when I've seen other people play this scene, it's pretty much the same. I don't think the original ROMs in the game could sync voices well on a Laserdisc. That's why you don't see Dirk have a lot of lines on here. He's just screaming and oohing and dying. So that's pretty much it. I don't think this is an issue at all.
Yes! Alright, I got that dragon. Took me several tries, but I eventually got it. Oh yeah. Ta-da! The end. Let's just do a quick side-by-side of the track modes for both the iiRcade Dragon Lair version versus the Arcade1Up Dragon Lair version. You can see the track load for the games is pretty similar, just kind of looping through different scenes. But the monitor quality, or at least the image quality on the Arcade1Up definitely feels a lot more crisp and clean than the iiRcade version, even though this is an HD remastered port. Maybe it's just the difference in the monitor and the screens. We know that the iiRcade uses a very, very good TN monitor, but just the quality of the colors and everything just popping look better on the Arcade1Up version, especially in the reds that you can see between the two. Might be hard to tell on camera, but I just wanted to show some of the visual differences between the two. The Arcade1Up actually has better quality in terms of the image, even though it's using, you know, true arcade port, and this is the home kind of HD port used by Digital Leisure. Let's go over some of the benefits of the iiRcade over Arcade1Up, which in the options menu screen here, you have several options for lives, move beeps and guides, which is a little arrow and a button that lights up when you play the game. You also have arcade and home mode, which allow you to learn the game if you play the scene over and over again. You have easy and hard difficulty. But playing the game actually feels a little bit different. It feels a little bit off in terms of timing. I had to learn the timing more on the arcade version, so I'm not sure you know, how they put it over. But the biggest feature that's missing on Arcade1Up that iiRcade has is the high score feature. On the original Dragon Lair game, This keeps your local high scores, and there's also a global high score board too, which you compete against others. There's no Wi-Fi in the Arcade1Up, not even keeping your high score after you finish the game. After the alphanumeric screen looks beautiful, it doesn't save any high scores on the cabinet itself, so you just have to snap a picture and that's it. So I think that's a sore missing point on this, that for replayability. Maybe the arcade didn't have high scores that they kept too, but it's interesting to see that there's no high score features there. But those are the biggest differences between iiRcade and Arcade1Up. Alright, let's do some gameplay of Dragon Lair 2. And so this game came out several years after the original Dragon Lair in 1991. This is using what I think is a true arcade port. So a couple of different things you'll notice on the screen. That there's this text overlay that you can't get rid of on the first stage that tells you what to do during the game for the first game. So it's almost like a move guide for the first stage only. So it has the original insert coins, which is pretty cool, looking really grainy. Insert additional coin to start. You have to put in 2 coins to start. It costs 50 cents to play. And so when you're playing the game, there's no overlay or option to remove the text. So some of the other biggest differences between Dragon Lair 1 and Dragon Lair 2. Dragon Lair 2 plays a little bit more linearly. You have to repeat each stage. If you mess up, it doesn't kind of randomly jump around. And then also the other thing that you have are in the next couple scenes, you'll see it really quickly. There is a, I died already. There's a little golden item that you have to collect. And so in each of those golden items, I'm going to press up, see this little arrow. So there's 10 of those little golden items that you need to get in order to get to the final boss in the game. So it adds a lot more challenge, difficulty. I really like this version of the game. It just adds another kind of element. It's a lot more fast-paced and quicker than the original, that I would say. And I died all my lives. Alright, one of the nice features, again, if you're playing the game, you got to a checkpoint, you can coin up to keep playing and you just start at that same checkpoint, or you can always do unlimited lives to play the game. I just enjoy the fact that we can play these games without having to worry about putting in tons of coins. I would never have been able to afford playing this game in the arcade because it took up so much of my monies. And so it's a great way to learn the game, enjoy it. You can see that the moves continue to stay on the screen for this first stage only. And once you are done with this particular stage, then I think once you get past the dragon is when it stops. So, alright, sword, down, sword. Oh no! Alright, but at least I got past this new checkpoint. Alright, we did it! Okay, we finally passed the first stage. We're on level 2 right now. So now after this stage, you no longer see the move beeps any longer. So it's interesting to continue learning the game as much as you can. Oh, I missed the egg. Oh, and then the sword flash. So you see little flashes on the screen on when you need to go. But that's it. So now that we've made it, we're on our own. Let's see how far I get before I die. We'll keep moving over. Alright, I got the egg. Oh, I thought I moved. Alright, so that's Dragon Lair 2. Pretty fun game. I'm going to keep going at it, but it's definitely a lot more fast-paced, a lot more movesets than Dragon Lair 1. I really like the game. So here's the nice thing about Dragon Lair 2. It does have an internal top 10 list here, so at least you have a way to track some high scores, and there's an option to reset everything. So this is the only game on the cabinet that keeps some track of high scores, which is pretty nice. Alright, so let's talk about Space Ace, the last game on the cabinet that has the most options that you see. You have unlimited lives per credit, 3 or 5. You have skill level as Cadet, Captain, or Space Ace, and difficulty levels. So interesting enough, when you play the Cadet level, you're playing the game, and even if you die, you still kind of advance forward. This is a linear progression game, but if you play Captain or Space Ace, it really makes you play that level over and over again when you die. So I like repeating levels because I want to make sure I try to beat the game ahead of time. So I'm gonna do Space Ace level, difficulty 3 if it's slow increase. I'm not sure actually the differences between the 3 and 5 episodes, slow increase or fast increase. I think this is the number of scenes that you play throughout the game. I haven't gotten that far yet, but let's go ahead and play the game so you can see the options and the gameplay style here. Alright, Space Ace came out also in 1983. You have a different heroine there, Kimberly. You have Space Ace himself, who was actually shot by an Infanto Ray, which is why he turns into Dexter. So there he is. That's how he got turned into a little infant, if you will, the infant adolescent version of himself. So when you're playing the game, you start off as Dexter and you have the ability to energize up into Ace. And so it allows you to play the game from different aspects and angles. If you play the game as Dexter all the way through, you're mostly avoiding things and just kind of running away. But if you energize into Ace, you kind of energize back up and you start taking the offensive, or you start shooting things more. So it's a little bit more aggressive playing as Space Ace, a little bit more challenging. I think you score more points as Ace too. And I think there's only one stage where it's more beneficial to stay as Dexter in terms of points played. The only bad thing is that there's no high score that's being kept on this machine. Again, one of my biggest detriments for the cab itself is that after you play the game, there's no way to keep track of your high score. But here I am dying several times. I'm probably going to keep playing this game over and over and over again. Just memorizing the move list, and it's challenging, but it's fun for me. I like these memorization type games. It helps challenge my memory. See if I can get past this first stage at least. Pew pew pew. Right. Oh, I totally went right. Alright, I think I left unlimited lives on, so I'm just going to repeat the stage over and over again until I get it. Let's go. Alright, sometimes you have to wait for the actual move beats to happen before you keep going. Alright. So now we turn back into Dexter. Gotta wait for that timing to get past. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Alright, we made it into the ship. Alright. Oh, I think maybe the fast increase, it skipped some of the scenes, because it skipped the scene where Kimberly's yelling at me. So, okay, so maybe those are the differences in the scene options, that you have the ability to kind of like skip some of the scenes. I missed that Laserdisc scene with Kimberly, so there, that might be one of the differences on the slow increase versus fast increase. Crashed. Alright, so that's some gameplay for Space Ace. Now this is one of those few cabs where you have to talk about the box and the packaging, because this is the Arcade1Up at-home arcade private reserve. They made this almost like a special edition cabinet, very much like their Supreme MK. If you want to check the full unboxing video, check out my live stream. But I was so happy and surprised with the quality of the packaging. Each little component came with its own sleeve box. I think they mentioned that they wanted to create that Apple experience when they're opening up the products, and it felt very premium opening up all the different boxes here. So highly recommend. I don't know, I want to keep the box because it's so nice, but I don't know what to do afterwards. Just wanted to mention it. It also came in a packaging sleeve and helped protect the box as it came. So it might be something you might want to keep. I don't know. Let me know if you plan on keeping your Dragon Lair box. I'm torn about what to do with this beautiful box and packaging. So final thoughts on the Dragon Lair cabinet. So the biggest detriment for me is the fact that both Dragon Lair and Space Ace does not have a way to save high scores. That is a miss in my opinion, that for this premium cab with the box design and everything else, if they added a Wi-Fi antenna, was able to change the UI to keep track of global high scores, that would have been amazing. The iiRcade actually does have that beat in terms of doing global high score leaderboards where you can check your own scores, even just save locally. There's not even a local way to save high scores on this. And so even though I've beaten the game a couple of different times, I don't know how well I've done to compare to the last time that I played. So the replayability factor without the global leaderboards, even just local leaderboards, is a big miss for me. Dragon Lair 2 does have a way to keep high scores. It's the only game on here that does that. Maybe the arcade didn't have a way to keep high scores as well, so that's arcade authentic. But we're in a modern times where I want to be able to high chase and chase a high score. So I do like that aspect of the iiRcade a little bit better. Besides that, That's probably the only issue that I have about this. You know, the quality of the monitor, the speakers, the alphanumeric display, the look of the cab itself. Again, one of the most fantastic cabs ever put together by Arcade1Up. Definitely lots of fun. I'm having a lot of fun playing the game and learning it again without the moves list. I was an Arrow Knight with the iiRcade version of it. I wasn't ashamed back then, but now I'm learning the gameplay over and again, and I can say I can beat the game in under 5 lives now, which is pretty fun. So I still have to master Space Ace. I still have to master Dragon Lair 2. And besides that, I would highly recommend this to add this into your collection. I think it's one of the best cabs Arcade1Up has done, with very, very little to improve on the things that I mentioned from an aesthetic standpoint. Maybe the user interface with the global leaderboards would be it. But hopefully you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up on your way out. Consider subscribing to the channel, and then thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.